I'm Kreskin. You know me as the Amazing Kreskin. You're watching PBR. You better not read my thoughts.
Hit it! Culture, sophisticated
Podcast, baby. Now tell me something good. Oh, yeah.
What's up, everybody? PBR Podcast, Mike Polano, Derek D, and Ryan Mars still in the house. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, man.
This was an amazing experience we just had, man. What you're going to hear in this episode is the Amazing Kreskin.
Yeah.
Right? It was pretty sick. And Ryan, you were here for it.
Yeah, it was cool, man. You know, I don't often get starstruck, but that just brought back, because I remember like watching, Carson with my grandmother. I was a kid. I was like 6.
Right.
And he would be on, So, I mean, I've heard about him for years. And I believe he's a local guy.
Yeah, he's from New Jersey,
so
man.
it's like-
I want to. Where
I didn't get it out of him. I didn't catch it, but I think North Jersey. Probably from where Ryan's from.
Yeah, I think it's he's from North Jersey area.
Montclair area.
Yeah.
all right. No.
But he's doing a show here at the House of Independence in Asbury Park, New Jersey. We had the great pleasure of him stopping in the studio
Yeah, man,
for a
that was
few
cool.
minutes on his way there. So
Signed a book.
he did. He gave us a book, and it was like I felt the way you did, man. It's not. I want to say to the PBR posse, it's not your average PBR episode, right? It was a little different, and I think of that is because the Amazing Kreskin, he is amazing. Like he has an aura about
You're just
him.
watching and
commands the room.
listening. Like,
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
like,
And you want to just hear, like he was on Carson.
Yeah,
Everything.
Because again, it's such a wide range of showbiz, whatever. I mean, you could get like the biggest movie star in the world in here right now, and it wouldn't have that same effect because it's like, all right, yeah, a guy's been big for like 5-6 years. I mean, like you said, this guy, what a body of work, what a length of
he
time.
knew like Kennedy and shit.
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah,
crazy.
not
dude.
really,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, how old is he? 80 something?
81 years old.
81
God
years
bless
old,
him.
and
Looks great.
He does this. We all got our hand. We shook his hand,
Yeah.
Right.
And that's like the famous handshake. Like he's
he
done
made me
that
feel
to
like
everyone.
a real wuss. He made me feel like a real wuss because I was like, oh wow,
Strong.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
so there's not. We're part of that group that got that handshake with
Yeah,
like
man.
all these other huge famous people.
Pretty cool. It was a
Pretty
pretty
awesome.
cool experience. His book is in real time. He's doing a tour right now. You can check it out on his website. There'll be a link off pbrpodcast.com. It was an amazing experience, and you're going to get to hear it now. Enjoy every word
The
about it.
story he tells about possibly giving up his money for a show is insane.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. And I've heard that about him, and I didn't know if that was necessarily like a myth. But I mean, it's
It
true.
seems to be true.
It's legit.
That is crazy.
Awesome stuff, man. Thanks for letting me hang around for it, guys.
Yeah, man, it was
no problem.
awesome. So, PBR Posse, here it comes. The Amazing Kreskin. Enjoy the show, and we'll see you next week.
See you later.
All right, guys.
All right, we're in it already. So
Are we on the air?
Yeah, we are on.
Well, I got to tell listeners, because this is the first time I met these two gentlemen, and I have to tell you in all sincerity, no matter good taste, I will not read their thoughts publicly.
No, nobody wants.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you? Thank you
Good.
so much for coming. I can
Yes.
tell you right now what Derek D's thinking. He's thinking everybody should go to DerekD.com. That's all. It's all about that.
Kreskin, they're always trying to paint me as a like I'm always all about myself. Come on, man.
No.
You know that. You just read my mind. You said
As I travel, I meet all kinds of folks, and I think it's great that you're working as a team like this. This is, it's an exciting area of communication today. I mean, you can be on top of things, you can be on current, and when I wrote the book in real time, and that can be gotten on Barnes and Nobles. It took me 2 years to write. It's my 20th book.
Yeah, it's a lot of
My
books.
20th book, and it's the first time I ever wrote a book like this. But people in the industry have told me, including Roger Ailes, whom I've known since the Mike Douglas days, and now he's the head of Fox. They say, Kreskin, well, it's now estimated, as of last year, I've flown the airline industry, it tells me I've flown a little bit over 3 million miles.
Whoa.
So having flown 3 million miles, been in Saudi Arabia 5.5 years, a number of weeks each year, they wanted me to comment on how I thought things were changing. So it's a book of predictions of what I think is going to happen in the months, years, and centuries, the next 1,000 years around the world. And it's not written in stone. I tried looking in a crystal ball, but I get a headache. But it's a commentary because I spend all my time with people. I have no equipment. I'm just tuning in on their thoughts. Like today, the phone was rung since this morning because, the riots in Chicago last night and what have you. And I've done over 1,000 university shows. And people are commenting, and you're amongst the first to get my commentary because I'm not politically oriented. Nobody knows how I'm going to vote, but I have. When you look at my webpage, yes, I've been in Trump's home because I performed in his home. I've been with Hillary Clinton. Christie's has been the governor here, so I've been on a number of appearances his publicly, but it's really not to endorse them or anything else. But because I spent so much time in colleges, and this was partly sponsored by a college campus, and then we had the rights and everything. Folks, you guys go into college. You need to come to your damn senses. And I'm not talking to you in a joking way. If you think that the riot and the march and everything was spontaneous, wait till you find out who paid for all this. You think all these people came accidentally and gathered together and started acting violently. And I believe very, very deeply in the freedom of speech. And you'll hear people say, well, they have the right to freedom of speech. Yes, and then you heard the criticism that, and this is not endorsing Trump, but that Trump, they saw in the past few weeks, was behaving his group like the Gestapos and the Nazi Party and what have you. The people that were rioting yesterday, and I've said that, if you study Goebbels and the Second World War, and by the way, if we don't study history, we will relive it again, and we are going to relive history. We're going to see it again. But the people that were protesting last night were behaving like Goebbels and the Nazi Party because in the spirit of freedom of speech, they were stifling freedom of speech, and that's the way it started in Nazi Germany in the 1930s. You protest, you couldn't talk about certain things, you controlled it. So let's come to our senses and realize, if I could told you through the years how many spontaneous riots I knew about one riot 6 months ahead of time, the very days it was going to take place. We got to start thinking logically. Other than that, I have too much to say.
Isn't it amazing though how this whole election process this time it's the relation, people relate it to Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, all of those, especially with Trump,
Which I kind of find
right?
ridiculous.
Yeah. Do you find, and now the kids acting that way, do you find that?
I think first we got to realize they're running out of, I think what's perplexed people is that you had a showman come along who caused more interest in politics than anybody has in some 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, and by the way, is anybody aware that there have been debates on television? I predict I understand there's going to be 2,704 more debates between now and
yeah, it's going to be something like that.
Yeah.
But you got to give Trump credit and talk about a savvy guy. Last night he said, I'm finished with the debates. He said there's no more to talk about. Yes, people are getting bored because you're hearing a redundancy.
Yeah.
The only way now you can get attention if you're on the debates, and some of them are going to do this in the near future, is to explain who they were having sex with and the kind of sex, because there's nothing else to talk about. There really is nothing else to talk
and
about.
Kreskin, let's be honest, you already know.
Well, now
you know the answers to
now
this
you
question.
folks are getting me in trouble. I got to tell you, I've worked on 84 crime cases, so I do have. And by the way, I got to say this in all honesty: the two guys I'm on with, I don't get the impression they've been in any serious crime cases that we've discovered yet.
That's true.
You'd be correct by saying that they haven't discovered it yet.
But the book in real time is really a commentary on, we're in a dramatic time, and I was asked. Just recently on a number of the cable news stations who I thought would take us out of the depression we're in, because it's not depression, economic reset. It's the worst one we've ever had in history. Mm-hmm. They said, we got pictures of you in Washington and so forth. You got to understand, by the way, first of all, I'm not sure we can blame exactly our politicians, because there's something also in Washington, D.C., which people don't talk about, called lobbyists. And university students say to me, my God, no one's taught us this in college. I spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. Right now in Washington, there are approximately 22,000 lobbyists. 22,000. Do you really think, I'm just going to ask you a question, you really think that someone can remain in government for 40 years and not have some behind-the-scenes profit going on?
Oh, come
Sure.
on. Absolutely. Yeah,
The
I mean,
system's
it's
broken, right? I mean,
the way, yeah, it's
Anyway, other than that, by the way, listen, I want to make this clear. I have nothing against our political figures. I just wish that most of them had been on the Titanic. But other than that,
I think what
Absolutely.
Kreskin just said was amazingly profound. I thought that was awesome. Thank you for doing that on our show. That was pretty awesome.
so Kreskin, you're a showman, a mentalist, right? You could read the thoughts of people, or you have a
that's
book
what
out
I do for
in real time.
In real time. Well, the book is dealing with predictions. But, my audience, I think the reason I was able to, by the way, I don't want people to think I don't know it all. I claim to be a total authority and know a tremendous amount about absolutely nothing.
I love that.
And I know very little about anything else. So I get all my information from audiences and people because, I don't have footlights between my audience and myself. I'm tuning in on their thoughts. A perfect example is one of my favorite stories was at the Riviera in Vegas a couple of years ago. A couple of months I was there. One night I said, so and so in the audience is thinking of such and such. And this elderly man stands up, distinguished guy, and I said, who are their names? He said, Kreskin, there are pets. We're not from here. We're not from Vegas. We're here on vacation. And he told us where he was from. He said, there are pet dogs. We love them. And I said to him, didn't you say to your wife, I wonder if Kreskin can tell me my Army serial number? I wish we had camera work like that there. He slammed his fist on the table and he says, damn it. He says, yeah. That was we're staying in another nightclub. He says, that was hours ago. I'm eating dinner. I said that to her. I said, who knows your Army number? Well, you can ask anyone you know, man or woman in the service. They'll never forget it, but they don't talk about it. He says, I don't think I ever told my wife the number. And in the next 2 minutes, I gave him the exact digits of his Army serial number, and he was in World War II. But if he didn't know the answer, I couldn't tell him that. So in all my shows now, and it's an adventure, whether it's a private group, it's in a gymnasium, it's in a college, or it's in a stadium. I turn my check over to my audience. I leave the theater under guard. And as one reviewer in Pittsburgh a few years ago said, it's just like watching a mystery play. The audience is creating the answer to the mystery. The audience hides my check anywhere in the theater. I'm brought back in. No one speaks to me. And if I don't find my check, I forfeit my fee, and it goes back to the people who booked me. And that's a hell of a way to make a living, guys.
Wow.
Yeah, and I just this past year, I failed my 10th time, which is not many out of 6,000. But in New Zealand, in one night at a Coliseum, and they had a press conference the next day that was covered up by over 100 reporters outside the theater. I lost in one night $51,000.
And jeez, is that like in your contract? That's in your contract.
My agreement. No, it's an agreement.
Wow.
Everyone knows all over the world. Doesn't matter where I'm working. Minnesota State Fair was 11,000 people. Oregon State Fair was 30,000. Just recently, a banquet affair in a private home was like 100 and some people. That is and I have, one famous incident was University of Illinois. I don't know how many times I appeared there, but I walked through the gymnasium. You could hear a pin drop. It's like 8,000 people. I think it was a family weekend. And you had trouble walking because guys and gals were sitting on the tarp in chairs, and people are in the bleachers. And I come to this elderly man. I thought he probably was a parent. I said, would you stand? I asked him to open his mouth. No check. I felt like a jerk. I felt like an absolute jackass. I walked 10 feet away from him, and something in my mind told me to come back. And I walked back to him, and I said, sir, if I embarrass you, you just sit down. I apologize. Would you open your mouth again? He did. I said, does this have to do with the roof of your mouth? I'll never forget this till my last day on earth. Reached in his mouth, took out his upper plates, and handed me my check.
Wow. And the fact that you had that thought, right, and you found that check. I mean, this show is
But
all
he had to concentrate. The people, not him.
Right.
The people who hit it had to think.
Right.
If they didn't think of where it was hidden, Forget it.
So the check was in his mouth? Isn't that gross?
Inside
And you knew it
the upper
twice.
plates in his mouth.
You didn't check that. You didn't cash that one, right? You made
Yeah, write me a clean one. You had plastic gloves on?
They gave me a new
Hey,
check.
Yeah, good.
Kreskin, it's 2016. It was Ebola.
Well,
Could be on that
hey,
check.
listen, I walked through a gymnasium in a university and picked a man in a suit and walked him to the stage and said something about a gun. I thought, this is stupid. He's not a policeman or anything. And if I open his jacket, he's a plainclothesman. I would never, ever do this in my regular life. I reached into his shoulder holster, it's got the gun, and turned the barrel towards my eyes. They'd
Hey.
taken tweezers and found
That's a
fed
check.
the
You forfeit.
down.
You forfeit
Well, the
that
check was-
check. You knew
the check was in
and you knew
pieces.
it wasn't going to go off anyway. It was a blank. Right? So let's go
Did
back.
he
to-
say his thinking is a blank or the check was
Probably
no?
both.
No,
Probably both. No, it's okay. It's okay. How does this? How do you, as a child, find this path?
It happened when I was 9 years old. I was in junior high school. I was in high school.
Was it like a God-given
I was in grade school. So I was in third grade, and it was raining outside. And Miss Curtis said, "We're not going to go out and play." I'm 9 years old in third grade
New Jersey.
in New Jersey, and she picks a gal, Jane Hamilton, it was, leave the classroom, and we hit a beanbag in the classroom. She brings Jane back in. She said, "I'm going to teach you a game." She says, "Jane, walk around. We put your check in someone's desk. Not check it. We put the beanbag in someone's desk. The classmates will say if you're getting near it, you're getting warm. If you're not near it, you're cold. Game of hot and cold. You're getting hot if you're near it." She found the beanbag, and I went home, and I thought she didn't pick me to play. So my brother, I walk 10 minutes to my grandparents' house. They were from Sicily. They built this house themselves. I said, they lived upstairs. They were renting the downstairs to make ends meet. I said, hide this penny up in Grandma's house. Grandpa was working. And he walks upstairs, calls me when he's ready. And I'll run upstairs. I walk into this big kitchen. My grandmother was a chef in Sicily, a wonderful cook. Walks to this big kitchen. She's sitting there wondering what's going on. She didn't speak much English. Walked into my uncle's bedroom. He was at work. Climbed up on a chair because I was a short kid. I reached behind a curtain rod and felt the penny. And then I suddenly remembered, I forgot to tell Joey to talk to me. No one spoke to me. No one said anything. And that was the beginning. And in fourth and sixth grade, in show and tell, Miss Galloway, my teacher, had me try to read the thoughts of my classmates. I remember in sixth grade, I said to Gloria, Gloria, I told everyone in the class to think of a movie you've seen. She's sitting in the back next to Judy Dunn. I said, you weren't thinking of a movie right now, were you? She says, no. I said, what was it, around Christmas, like a half year? She said, yes. I said, was it such and such a movie? And it was the movie she was thinking of. That was the beginning. Then in ninth grade, my lady friend passed away this past year, but I took her around the world in trips. In a yearbook, they gave it to me just a few months ago. Picture me performing in high school. I was in ninth grade, and I was performing in assembly. And by ninth grade, I was doing 2-hour concerts around the world, 2-hour shows.
Wow.
So it was a slow thing, though. It didn't happen overnight.
But is it like something that you
I
like
think it
you
was
felt
inherent, but no
the
one
gift
taught me.
was
It was a gift that I learned to begin. You got to understand. You know, I had a hero when I was a kid. No one I saw. There's a comic that you can look up now by Lee Falk called Mandrake, and it was called Mandrake the Magician. And it was the biggest comic, one of the big. And Lee Falk wrote another comic called The Phantom. There's been many cartoon and series done The Phantom, but Lee Falk created this man. He wasn't a magician; he had hypnotic powers, and he was able to tune on people's thoughts. And someone gave me the comic when I was 5, and I, in my mind, I play acted him amongst friends. And then 10 years before Lee Falk died, they had a seminar at Sardi's in New York with all these professors and researchers saluting this man who created Mandrake and the Phantom. And they invited me there. And he said hello to me, and he was talking about how he created this. And in the middle of the conference, he stopped and said, I want you to know something. I've been writing this since 1935. The only person living that I've ever seen or heard that's come closest to Mandrake is Kreskin. Can you imagine?
Oh, wow.
That's great.
That was like a gift.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
How do you feel when that's said?
I got to tell you guys, it's one of the experience. You know, I've worked with hundreds and thousands of people, and all the experiences from Carson to Jimmy Fallon to to Regis and all. I got stories to tell because my life's been like an adventure. It's really wild. And they said, would I ever retire? And I can announce it here. Yes, I'm going to. 10 days after I pass away.
When you're taking this journey, do you find that you have to exercise it to make
I
it?
run. Last night, I didn't tell my road manager this. I tripped on. I run about 20 minutes at night, either on a machine if it's wintertime or outdoors. And I decided to run outdoors. And all right, whoever left the toy outdoors. I'm not going to sue. I don't get involved too much in attorneys, although I probably should, because those of you going into law, someone should warn you. People. Well, I travel. They should warn you that in the United States today, unlike any country in the history of mankind, there's now one attorney for every 200 people. That's why law schools and law firms are closing all over the United States. So think of what you're going to do when you go into work.
Right.
Huh. What's the difference between a mentalist and
A
like a psychic?
I can't foretell the future. Yeah, when I wrote in real time, I've talked about things that I sense taking place in the future, but I use my own intuition. I don't give people advice. I'm not telling them, this is going to happen to them in the near future, unless I'm the one that intends to commit the crime of violence. No. But I that's not what I work. I work on how people think, and I remember. Anyway, I want to tell you some of the stories that the politicians say. By the way, the last time I saw Trump, it was after he was reelected to a governor, and I had my hand against his head. So the sign they put under him when it was reproduced was, "I told you so," meaning that he had won the election. And this is not predicting or supporting anything in the future. But I'm not a fortune teller, and yet my shows, by the way, are run about. My full evening shows are 2 hours and 30 some minutes in length.
Oh wow!
Tonight I'm appearing in the New Jersey area for a 90-minute program. But they're really at adventures because people come year after year because new experiences take place. And if you ever see me do this on camera, I'm telling the directors, I can't work with this person anymore. They're probably thinking something. I don't say this on the air. That's not something to talk about publicly, maybe something very personal. I've been involved in preventing a few suicides that people had been considering.
That's awesome.
And not that I created any such things, but preventing them. I mean, you got to be with these guys on the air. What I like about these two gentlemen, and you can put this as a quote: they're great guys to work. They're flaky, but they're good guys.
I mean, he's nailed it. Right?
I like the zings Kreskin's throwing out.
But, hey, you know something? I have a sign in my office, and all of you folks listening, don't forget this. I have a sign. If anybody ever calls me politically correct, kick me in the ass. When I was a kid, little boy, and there was the Second World War, you had Jack Benny in a movie. Someone was impersonating Hitler. They were mocking him. One of the probably the greatest comedian in the last century, success-wise, was Bob Hope. He was constantly satirizing our enemies. If we can't laugh at ourselves, then we're losing some of our democracy.
100%.
That's a conversation that comes up often on this show.
We talked about it with Ryan Mark, a guest we had previously on the show.
Yeah. What's a trigger? Like when you look at somebody like Derek.
What's a trigger with him?
What's a trigger? Is he a type of person that thinks a certain way? Is it almost like
first of all,
prejudging?
can I tell you something? First of all, you made an error when you said that he thinks.
He makes a lot of errors.
I agree with you 100%.
You guys are bad. No.
One of us is bad. The other one's okay.
I have fun because a lot of the comedians I've been with have had fun kidding about things like that. I don't judge it. And by the way, you got to understand something, because I meet people all the time. I'm not figuring out what they're thinking of instantly. A person has to concentrate, has to cooperate, but you got to also understand, because we're living in an area that's not very far from a city called Atlantic City. I'm banned from all the casinos in the Western world.
Really?
I could. There's once in a while they'll let me play. They'll let me play blackjack because not because the dealer doesn't know his cards. I can't play poker anywhere in the Western world. A story that changed my climate was in Aruba. I was at a casino, and I'll wrap it up real quick. when it was closed, into my run, I said, let's go to a casino. People in Aruba didn't know me. It was people from Canada, United States, England, what have you. So I went into a casino I closed another casino that night. And I went in with $37 our money. I don't know what it was in their money. They converted it. And the casino was supposed to close at 1 o'clock. And the table was open at 1:30. My road manager keeps walking. And I said, get the hell out of here. And he kept looking at the table because I was winning some money. They were keeping it open because they were hoping I'd lose money back. Quarter of three, I stopped. I went to my hotel. I cashed the money, went to another place and got my money cashed. And I said, I got the guy that booked me who was from the States. Come on and help me. He says, what the hell happened? He says, help me. I said, help me pack the cash. It was $100 bills into my pockets. I'm afraid if they open the suitcase, they'd think something was seriously wrong. $37 I started with. I won $22,400.
That's crazy.
Exactly $22,400.
That's amazing.
You should have seen me when I got to play. Looked like I had gained 40 pounds of weight. I had all this on me. So, guys, by the way, the people, you folks watching, and they agreed to this after the interview, they're going to play poker with me. It's going to be a quiet
No.
game. I will
Don't you
not
don't you
touch the
I didn't
cards.
agree to that.
Zero
Dennis, you can
chance.
play with Dennis.
Listen,
Right?
guys, I got to go a little bit, but I'll tell you something. When I come back in the area, we're going to do this again. You guys are good to work, and
Thank you,
you know
Chris.
what's
I
good?
think you're great. This is awesome.
You know what's good? I love my work. I'll tell you some serious things in the future. And the book, by the way, is in real time.
In real time.
You know, did you see the cover?
That's
You
beautiful.
put the cover
You're a good-looking
like this,
man. I
and
like that. It's like
It looks like it's you right there.
I know.
Can I ask you one final question
Right.
before you go?
Right.
Because you've been around for the game a long time. You said Johnny Carson, Jimmy Kimmel.
I did
Jimmy
88
Fallon.
shows with Carson. With Regis, I did Regis 105 shows.
That's amazing. How do you see? The last question I'll ask you is: how do you see, like with the technology? How do you see that progressing in the future?
It is progressing. It certainly is progressing.
I mean, it gets smaller and smaller. You go from Carson.
Yeah, but because today 3 million viewers in a network thing is considered a big audience. Years ago, a show would be canceled.
Right.
But something has happened to late night television. This is the first time anybody has ever said this publicly. I just talked to some broadcasters behind the scenes about a week ago, and they said, Kreskin, no one's ever said this. You watch a show. No matter what the show is, I've been on with a lot of them. The guest comes on, you talk to them and say hello, and then you leave and the next guest comes on. Johnny Carson, Jack Parr, Steve Allen, David Letterman watched the show. The guest came on and stayed on the show as the next guest came on. Right. Some of the most wonderful things that happened when you had some character on and a couple of others gone on, they got in arguments and people talked about the next day. We've lost some of the flavor of late night television.
That's great insight.
Guys.
Thank you
Listen,
so
I'm
much.
going to say goodbye, but I'll
Thank
say
you,
to be
Kreskin.
continued.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Have a great show tonight.
Get a picture together. Yes, definitely. And by the way, this picture can only be used for legal purposes.
Revolution.
Hit it.